You're watching Open Agenda. Here's your host, Mike Goldberg. Welcome to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Mike Goldberg. Our panelists today are Joe Scafino from Salisbury and Joe Venosa, also from Salisbury.
Clearly by the accent.
Yes, that's the Staten Island end of Salisbury.
Right, yes.
Development in downtown Salisbury's Central Business District is in the headlines once again. Salisbury Market Center, LLC, the owner and developer of downtown Lot 30, has initiated a legal action to compel the city to quickly schedule a hearing before the Board of Appeals. It's the developer's hope that they can obtain the permits necessary to begin construction on Lot 30, which the city administration never processed because the plans for development do not satisfy on-site parking requirements. This is just the latest of several legal actions related to the inadequate parking and the city's sale of prime downtown properties to real estate developers at prices far below fair market value. So today we're going to discuss the specifics of some of the downtown properties formerly owned by the city that were formerly used as much needed parking lots, right, so that people can come to downtown, right, to dine, to go to council meetings or whatever else. The people are going to be denied in the future that parking. It seems that there may be a bit of a shortage. I was waiting for you to say something.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Regarding these lots, that the code says that parking for these developments will be evaluated on a project-by-project basis by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then making their parking recommendation to the mayor and council. That was never done.
Well, we'll get into I'm sorry, you had something.
Well, no, so again, based on the research that you've brought us, Joe, it seems that the process wasn't correctly followed, and of course the actual financial transactions also defy logic,
which we'll get into.
So I'm curious to sort of chew on that a bit.
Yep.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting into some of the ugly details on this. So stick with us, and we'll talk about the details on the various lot sales. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Mike Goldberg. We're going to continue our discussion about the downtown lots in Salisbury that were formerly owned by the city of Salisbury that were ultimately sold to developers in recent years. Why don't we start with Lot 30? It's one of the more prominent lots downtown. What was the original use, or the most recent use of that particular lot?
Lot 30 was most recently a parking lot right on the north prong of the Wycomico River.
And roughly where is it located, so folks understand?
Right, West Main Street.
Pretty much right across from where the Mad Hatter restaurant is.
Right, exactly. Yep. And you cross the drawbridge, and it's that lot. Right now it has a chain link fence and black screening around it. That was originally purchased by the city in 1984 for $166,000. So here we are 42 years later, and the city sold it to Green Street Housing for $10,001.
$10,001 when it was purchased years ago for $166,000. One would think that the value would have appreciated significantly. That would be worth, considering its prime downtown property, well over $500,000.
Exactly.
So why did they sell it for pennies on the dollar? Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, but one thing that affects all the sales of the lots that we're going to touch on is that the director of procurement has a competitive bidding requirement that all city saleable property must be sold through competitive bidding, ensuring fair market value. I mean, that's in the code. And not only did the director of procurement not get fair market value, but the council and the mayor at the time approved those sales. So the taxpayers unknowingly subsidized these giveaways.
Yeah, and giveaway is the only word you can use. I mean, I almost can't comprehend a piece of property that was valued at $166,000 when I was basically born, and then selling it almost 40 years later for a tiny fraction. I mean, other than the land around Chernobyl, I don't know what kind of real estate depreciates to that extent.
So we don't really know what the present fair market value is because there's no indication that the city obtained an appraisal before disposing of the property.
Yeah, that's the other thing that wasn't done. I mean,
there's no other way to establish fair market value.
no, I'm
beyond an
flabbergasted. Like I said, that's why I got involved.
And
appraisal. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to. So, is this a trend that we also see with the other lots?
Oh, absolutely. Which one you want to talk about next?
Yeah, well, we'll talk about all of them, believe me.
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of improvements the developer is contemplating to put on that lot?
Yeah. He wants to put approximately 11,000 foot of retail space and then 51 apartment units above it.
So it'll be ground floor retail,
Mixed
one
use,
or more
Yeah, mixed
tenants,
use. Yeah.
and then
And I believe it's low income, which we need, no question there. The issue is the parking requirement, and that's the issue with all these downtown lots. The developers believe they don't have a parking requirement, and the code clearly states they have one. So,
and we'll talk a lot more about that.
yeah, we can talk about that in a
the
few
C-
minutes
the C
because
block.
it'll be clear.
But I think there's also another issue there. There's an adjacent property on Willow Street, I believe.
Yes.
That will be leased to the Salisbury Market Center, who is the developer, a subsidiary
Correct.
of Green Street Housing.
Yep.
And do you know how much they're leasing?
It's a
that
99-year lease for $1 a year.
$1 a year.
And the city purchased that lot in 1985 for $94,000.
So they purchased it for $94,000.
Yep.
And they are leasing it for $1 a year. Brilliant.
How can we have an affordability crisis on the Eastern Shore when we're managing to sell city assets for literally
Pennies on the
dollar?
Well, it gets worse. Let's talk about Lot 10, and that's the public parking lot, I believe, where the flea market used to be.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, and who was that sold to?
That was sold to Mentis LLC, and I believe they were the developer of the Ross also.
Yeah.
Mentis Capital Partners. Yeah.
And got millions of dollars in tax breaks from the city on that project. That lot 10 was sold for $75,000, but that one had an SStat assessment at the time of $1.7 million.
And it should be understood that the SStat assessment is not actually fair market value. The fair market value is going to be less than that because the tax assessments, will be greater than that
yes,
because tax
exactly.
assessments run several years behind
Right.
fair market value.
Correct.
And so the assessed value was
$1.7 million.
$1.7 million, chasing a $75,000 acquisition price.
Again.
And what do they intend to build there?
Supposedly a convention center and hotel. My understanding is that they're still working on financing. I don't know if that's still the case, but
And that leads us to another property that's known as Marina Landing. That was purchased. That was also purchased by the city of Salisbury back in 1988. You know how large that lot is and what the city's acquisition price was?
that lot was a little over 3 acres, and the city paid $1.2 million for that in 1988. Now they sold it to Salisbury Development Group. They sold 2.4 of those acres for $1. I don't know.
I'm flabbergasted.
I believe it.
You know,
And that the council and mayor at the time approved this is shocking. I don't know why there weren't people in the streets with pitchforks and torches. I really...
So just to reiterate, it was purchased in '88 for $1.2 million and sold for $1.
Yeah, majority of it.
So 2.4 acres out of 3.
Yep.
So obviously another huge loser for the for city of Salisbury taxpayers. And that leads us to 3 lots that kind of go together. Lots 1, 11, and 15 all of which were also formerly public parking lots that we will no longer have the use of. Can you give us some of the background about the sale of that?
Okay, that one was sold approximately 2016 for $275,000. Now, doing my research, the deeds only show that they were purchased for $10,000 each, and and consideration. So I can't tell you if the developers who sold it took a tax write-off. I don't know if there was some other. I can't tell you that, but we can tell you, that the value of those properties is significantly more than 270. In fact, I will tell you that the three of them combined are worth over $1 million.
Now, just to clarify, they were sold in 2023?
26. Well, the original was 2016.
Okay.
And the original land development agreement.
Okay.
And then the revised, amended land development agreement was 2023.
So they were declared a surplus in 2016 when they were sold?
Yep.
Is that okay? I see. Okay.
Now, what's interesting though, of the three lots, lot 15 was never even declared surplus.
So, what authorized the city to sell that property since
I have
declaring it surplus is requisite to the sale?
From the minutes that I read, it appears that the mayor threw it in because lot 1 included Unity Square. So when the city took part of lot 1 for Unity Square, the developer said, well, I lost that. I need something to make up for it. And apparently, Mayor Day at the time.
I'm sorry.
Apparently, Mayor Day at the time said, "All right, well, we can put lot 15 in there to make up for it." And the developer said, "Fine," but lot 15 was never declared surplus, so there's no way that should have been included.
That's pretty amazing. Now, is there not a lawsuit involving Lot 15 at this time?
Yes, there is a building owner across the street owns the what was called the synagogue building, and she has a business on the ground floor. She has apartments above, and when she purchased that building, the city assured her, no, that's public parking, no problem, because she needs parking for her tenants and clients, and there are other surrounding businesses that would use that lot. And recently, the city actually had 4 electric charging stations for electric vehicles installed on that. So it would indicate, yeah, that's a parking lot. So
the owner of that other property had assurances from the city of Salisbury that parking would be available, and then they pulled the rug out from under her.
Right. That's why she purchased the building. She spent a lot of money purchasing and renovating that building, knowing that she was going to have parking. Otherwise, it would have been pointless. And so once this happened, she actually offered to buy that property and offered more than they sold it for. And
but the city didn't want more money.
No, apparently they said, my understanding is they told her, oh, you're too late. And so it's in litigation now. There is going to be a hearing in December that I will absolutely be attending. There's a good chance. I've read the lawsuit. It's 40 pages, and it's damning of what the city director of procurement did, what the mayor did, and what the council did.
And this is the prior mayor, not the
right.
current.
No. The current mayor inherited a mess, and he's doing a hell of a job cleaning it up.
So that would have been Mayor Jake Day, former Mayor Jake Day.
Yes, and then acting Mayor Jack Heath.
And then the council.
And the council.
And of course the council.
Yep.
Yes. So now the city's in a position where it's selling off all of these parking lots. And that seems to me that's going to result in a shortage of adequate parking downtown. So what do y'all think the impacts to the central business district are going to be with all of this parking being taken away?
Well, I don't think they're going to help. I mean, again, I understand that there's a constant sort of battle between those who think parking is not important and, sort of hoping for a more walkable urban core versus those that want to drive. The reality is this, though, all right? As much as and listen, I bike and walk downtown all the time. I'm a big proponent
So do I.
walkable.
Yeah.
So you got more credibility as a bicycle enthusiast than anybody here. But we don't have the transportation infrastructure that most cities of our size would require for that.
And that's the argument that the Salisbury Market Center says. There are plenty of cities that have apartments with no required parking. But like you said, New York, Chicago, Baltimore, they have public transportation. So we don't have that.
And we do not have that. And we also don't have major employers downtown.
Or shopping.
I was at one point very involved in a lot of the redevelopment in downtown Richmond, Virginia, the Shockoe Slip, Shockoe Bottoms area, formerly tobacco warehouses. So they took these old tobacco warehouses, converted them into multifamily units with ground floor retail or food and beverage space, and having interviewed many of the tenants, they would be able to get on a bus, go north on Broad Street to get to major employment centers that were just outside of the CBD. Many of them were able to actually walk to work because there are many downtown employers, and there's certainly an abundance of retail and dining amenities downtown that downtown Salisbury simply doesn't have.
Well, I just want to throw in that the developer of lot 111 and 15 actually came up with a proposal for the parking that the mayor and council actually accepted. They proposed that the city spend $10 million to build a parking garage for their tenants.
Well, look, if you're robbing the city already, why not go the full nine? I mean,
and again,
But with all of the money they made on the sale of these properties for $1, that should most certainly pay for the parking structure.
And doing the math, the permit fees wouldn't even pay for the bond. I mean, again, how the mayor and council approved that, and that excuse me, that parking proposal was never discussed in a work session. It was just brought up at that one session where they voted on it.
Why don't we take a little break at this time? We'll come back and we'll talk about some of the processes for disposing of surplus properties. So stick with us, and we'll be back on the flip side here in just a minute. You're watching Open Agenda. Welcome back to Open Agenda. Thanks for sticking with us. I'm still here with the two above-average Joes. In the last block, we talked about the differential between the acquisition price of the downtown properties, formerly parking lots, and the amounts for which they were sold to private developers. Could one of y'all explain to us, what is the process for selling surplus properties in the city of Salisbury?
The director of procurement has to identify properties that are either surplus or obsolete, and present it to council. They're also supposed to give council a fair market value for those properties,
Which would require an appraisal.
I would think so. That's how else you're going to get it.
Sure.
And then has to be put out for competitive bidding. And again, you put something out for bid. If you don't like the bids you get, you don't have to sell it.
yeah.
So,
Now, I can see where there might be situations where you don't want to sell it by competitive bidding, where there's a specific use, an end user who
right.
Would do something different that you wouldn't want.
Exactly, but still, I think the bottom line here is that you want to receive fair market value in most cases. So when it comes to parking, and which it appears we're now going to have a shortage of, do you think that the city officials followed the laws and ordinances pertaining to approving site plans that don't meet the parking requirements?
Based on what I've heard today, and even prior to this, I don't think they followed those laws or ordinances at all.
No, absolutely not.
In fact, I would say that they went out of their way to, in my opinion, damage the public trust and it's a dereliction of their duty.
Yeah, they have a fiduciary duty.
Mayors and council people, and obviously the head of procurement, they have the fiduciary responsibility to the public to protect their assets.
Yep.
If you're giving them away to your friends or to just people that you think care about the community via development projects without actually doing the math, I have a problem with that.
And I'm going to throw this in. If you look at the campaign finance reports for the then mayor and the council people, the developers were contributors to their campaigns.
Well, that certainly is interesting. So do you believe that there's at least a possibility that something untoward was actually happening?
Well, I mean, it's just like Congress, the best Congress money can buy. And at the local level, they got the best council and mayor that they could buy.
So most of this happened during the last administration.
2016 to 2023 is when this all went down.
And that's when Jake Day was mayor. But there's also a few council people, I understand, that had voted for these conveyances of the real estate that are still on the council, in one case a candidate. Can we name some names here?
Well, Councilwoman Blake and Councilwoman Gregory voted for all these property sales. They voted to approve the $10 million bond for that parking garage. And there was a council person who was appointed for 11 months, Megan Outen. She also voted for this. Now, the lots 1, 11, and 15, that was voted on in 2023. So, again, council president at the time, Boda, Michelle Gregory, Angela Blake, and Megan Outen, who was just appointed, served 11 months. Those four voted for the sale of 1, 11, and 15, and they voted for the $10 million garage. And acting mayor Jack Heath at the time also supported. The only one who voted against it was April Jackson.
Okay. Do you believe that the city officials complied with the competitive bidding requirements pertaining to the sale of city-owned property?
No, clearly they didn't.
How about the director of procurement at the time, who was responsible for determining fair market value? Did they even bother to make a determination of fair market value, or were they just going to do the deal?
It blows my mind how you can just not do your due diligence and follow the law, but the short answer is no, they didn't.
Yeah, they didn't do it. It's clear. And that's outlined in the lawsuit that's going to be heard in December. And that's why I believe there's a good chance that all those sales could be declared void.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and again, even if that does happen, right, there's still, I think, a structural concern here, which is a major city in Maryland, Salisbury, has been operating this way for years, in which you have developers, often the friends and campaign contributors of some of these officials, who are able to have massive influence that goes against every financial reality, every ethical standard,
Fiduciary responsibility,
and frankly, just basic mathematics, to effectively develop a part of the city that then would compromise residents' ability to actually live and work and travel there. So it seems to me to be, at its core, corporate welfare and crooked deals that are not helping the community. And I just, as a regular person, right, who lives in Salisbury, who cares about this city, who raises my child here, I find this to be so disgusting that people would not even follow just the basic process, and then to turn around and act as if this is all on the up and up.
Yeah, and part of what I think part of the problem is, we say, why weren't the citizens there with torches and pitchforks? Well, only 29% of the city residents are homeowners. 71% of the city residents are renters. Yeah. And renters generally aren't paying attention. Yeah. There's some transient, so I think that's part of the problem.
And I think part of the problem is also that the people who actually run for office, for city council, don't have a background in business. They don't have a background in real estate. They don't necessarily understand what the heck they're doing.
Fair enough. Neither do I and other people. But 2 + 2 is 4, and it seems like on some of these deals, even that level of expertise is lacking, because I don't think you need to be someone with a real estate background or in finance to understand that if you bought a property in the 1980s for $160,000 and you're selling it for literally $10,000, that's just incompetence at best.
It wouldn't make sense for anybody to
No.
invest in real estate under those under those circumstances.
Right.
I don't think. Now, weren't there also some tax abatements involved here as well?
Well, there's the Horizon program, which, interestingly, the Ross got. In fact, they got it belatedly. They were saying, well, our project wouldn't be profitable without this benefit. Well, in supposed capitalist system, if your project can't be profitable standing on its own without government subsidies, you don't build it.
We're just socializing failure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this has certainly been most enlightening. I appreciate y'all coming today to talk about this. And we will be back very soon with another episode. Thanks for tuning in to Open Agenda. We'll see you next time.